It'll forever be funny to me that the faith of mainstream black superheroes now rests in the hands of this man.
Yo, check it out, motherfucker. I'm Tupac. Come and get me.
All right, so I saw Captain America: Brave New World. It was pretty good. I'll be honest, I had to leave my expectations low for this movie just because of, the current state of Marvel has kind of been hit or miss. But Marvel kind of always has been hit or miss. Like, I don't think the stream of Marvel just hitting back to back to back to back to back to back hits wasn't until phase 3. Like, I think a lot of people forget, like, phase 1 and 2 had a lot of issues. Like, yeah, Iron Man 1 was great, but then we had Iron Man 2, we had Iron Man 3, we had Thor the Dark World, we had the Incredible Hulk. I actually like the Incredible Hulk. A lot of people didn't like it. We had Avengers Age of Ultron, which I kind of prefer over Avengers 1, but, a lot of people weren't really feeling Age of Ultron like that, but we forget about that. And don't get me started about Ant-Man. I'm not even just talking about Quantumanium. I'm talking about all 3 Ant-Mans. Like, Ant-Man 1 and 2 are in the 80 percentile for critics on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, what are we doing here? So, yeah, Marvel hasn't always just been as Teflon as, history makes it seem, but everybody either has to be like all in on something or full out hate it. There can never be an in between. And with the MCU, I've always been a big fan of it. I've tuned in for all the movies and I've seen all the shows on Disney Plus except Miss Marvel and the last season on What If. But other than that, I've seen majority of everything. And ever since the 20s started, it's had its fair share of issues, with COVID, the strikes, Jonathan Majors running around with that white woman, Chadwick Boseman passing away. Like, there were a lot of things that affected the traditional route the MCU would go on a roadmap to where things had to be readjusted, rethought out, things had to be flipped around, turned over. Heck, James Gunn was fired from Guardians of the Galaxy and then rehired, which then made the movie come out like 2 or 3 years later. And then on top of that, we had Disney forcing Marvel to create more content at a faster rate, which is why we get the Disney Plus shows, which basically spreads out the resources even more. So it kind of like it's oversaturated. It's oversaturation. It's a perfect storm for things just not to go right. And with this movie, I knew it had its issues just because, Chris Evans and Captain America go hand in hand now. And a lot of people don't like change, and a lot of people don't like, when change goes from white to black. So that's the thing, too. Everything's more politicized now. Everybody looks at the letters D, E, and I like they're gang members or something like that. It's another acronym that everybody hates now. Anthony Mackie said some comments about how Captain America doesn't really represent America or something like that. Basically, he said something that Chris Evans said a couple years ago, but he said it a little bit differently. So everybody took it very offensive. Well, not everybody, just a certain group of people who don't like certain things took it offensive. So yeah, I was kind of worried for the movie just because of everything it had to take on. And then after seeing Thor: Love and Thunder, it's kind of like, all right, now y'all can just, y'all, I don't know what to expect from you guys sometimes. Sometimes you'll just be decent. Sometimes you'll be great. Sometimes you'll just be like, what the hell did you just give me? I found it pretty decent. First of all, Anthony Mackie is really good as a Captain America. Like, his transition to taking over the mantle of Captain America really fits because we know Sam Wilson. Like, we've seen Sam Wilson about 11 years ago in The Winter Soldier. So we have an idea of who he is. Like, I never looked at Sam Wilson as Steve Rogers' sidekick because, first of all, this is a grown man. You can't really be a sidekick. You pushing 40. But the thing is, I looked at him more like, Bruce Willis and Reginald Vell Johnson in Die Hard. Kind of like that dynamic, except, if Reginald Vell Johnson was having wings and flying around and cursing people out and stuff, like a right-hand man. Like Will Smith and Charlie Mack. How about that? And I like how they didn't try to whitewash Sam Wilson just because he is that Captain America now. Like, this is still a, nigga at the end of the day. Like, I can see this man at barbecues and family reunions. Like, he fits in. So it's really good they didn't try to repeat that tone. And I can see him leading the Avengers come Doomsday and Secret Wars. Like, he has a presence and just like the seriousness that goes with it. But he can be charming and funny too. And not like that, Marvel funny where they just, make wisecrack and everybody talks like Tony Stark throughout the whole thing. Like, no, he's actually his genuine sense of humor. Like, keep that funniness inside the confounds of what that character would do. Then we have Harrison Ford as Thaddeus Ross, which I was so worried that Harrison Ford was just going to come up in here and just, phone it in like, it was like, oh, Marvel movie, let me just get my money and stuff. Like, no, he actually tried. And I was very happy that he tried. And don't get me wrong, Harrison Ford is one of the greats. I was just nervous if he was going to take this seriously or not, which, surprisingly enough, he did. Like, I don't even think Harrison Ford used CGI to turn into the Red Hulk. I think that was just him. He seems like a very angry man, but he used it in the right way with this movie. Carl Lumbly as Isaiah Bradley was great. I don't really know too much of Carl's movies and everything. I just know him from this and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but he brings the feelings in this movie. Like, you do feel genuinely bad for him. Like, at one point in the movie, he was like, I should have stayed home. And I was like, dang, man, yeah, you should have stayed home because this is pretty bad, but you did try to assassinate the president, so, we gonna go ahead and put you in the clink for, just a little bit. You'll be gone. You'll be out of there by the time the movie ends. But, for now, just chill out for a second. And that's where my problem comes with this movie. It's like the movie has like a bunch of different ideas, but it doesn't really connect or, commit to any singular one. Like, it has to do a lot. It has to be a Captain America movie, it has to be Harrison Ford movie, it has to be an Incredible Hulk sequel, it has to do all these things and like interweave everything, and to the point where it's just like, I feel like if they would have just picked 2 items and just expanded on it, it would have been so much better. Like, it has Giancarlo Esposito in it, and you got Giancarlo, you need to like make this thing, make it, use it, but they kind of have him in a couple scenes and then he kind of leaves halfway through the movie. So it's kind of like, I feel like there was a way to just weave him in throughout the whole movie so everything can connect tightly at the end. And on top of that, you have another villain that's in the shadows who we ain't seen in a while. And it's kind of like one of those things where like, okay, this is cool, but I need you to just come a little bit better with the villainy. Like, he's kind of like one of those super smart geniuses who just knows everything just because like the plot allows him to do everything. Like, we need some details with this villain. Like, I understand why you're doing it, but at the same time, it's like you have to make it hit harder than this. And I think that's the thing with this movie. Like, the ideas just did not hit hard. Even Thaddeus Ross and his daughter Betty, we ain't seen Betty since 2008. Betty kind of plays a crucial role in like why Ross is doing what he's doing. But it's just kind of like one of those things where it's just like, oh, it's a conversation where I explain like, oh, this is why this is important to me. But it's like, all right, you didn't have to tell us. You could have just showed us. And just there were so many scenes cut out of the movie from the trailers that I wouldn't be surprised if there's a version of this movie out here that has more time with these characters that actually explains things a little bit better. Oh, just because I forgot to mention this earlier, Danny Ramirez, now he is a sidekick. He is good as Joaquin Torres. Like, he gives me Robin vibes. Like, when I see him, I think of Dick Grayson. So it's kind of like, you know what? That's a sidekick. I don't want to call you on a level as, Sam and Steve, but you definitely there to support me, and I appreciate that. Dude was funny. He wasn't that annoying. But yeah, with the movie itself, I just feel like the whole thing that holds it back is just, it could have been tighter. Like, the first half of the movie, they're doing a lot of explaining things to us. Like, the first 10 minutes of the movie, they're giving you like exposition talking about previously on 2008's Incredible Hulk. Like, it was just like spitball, newscasters just reading out, oh, well, this happened, he was disgraced because the Hulk destroyed Harlem back in 2008. It was just kind of like one of those things where it's just like, all right, pull back, and like, we can spread the stuff out. Like, we can, if the movie was like 20 minutes longer, it's only an hour 58 minutes. If it was 20 minutes longer and worked on its pacing, we would have had like a nice solid like 8.5. But for now, I'm gonna give it a solid 6.5 out of 10 stars. But yeah, it's not political in any way or anything like that. Like, yeah, Red Hulk is not, some symbolism for what's going on in the world now. Red Hulk has always been here for years in the comic books, but it is funny that it's a Red Hulk in front of the White House just wrecking stuff. Like, the jokes write themselves, but hey, sometimes God has a sense of humor. I love the fight with the Red Hulk. I love, the aerial battle. That was like really, that second half of the movie like really got me like just leaning out my seat a little bit like, oh shoot, this is really cool. Like, you can see why they shot it in IMAX on some parts. Towards the end, now what was offensive was some of the green screen at the end of the movie. Now I was just like, this looks a little ugly. I saw it in the trailer, but seeing it on the screen, I was just like, yeah, that don't look right. But you know what? Everything else was cool. So, you know, it's a movie. It's a comic book movie. Just turn your brain off and watch it. Like, if you're expecting an Academy Award level superhero movie, this ain't The Dark Knight. This is just like one of those 90s spy thriller action movies that you had on VHS and it's part of your childhood. This is one of those movies where I feel like some kids are going to look back and be like, hey, this was my movie growing up. This was the one I had on repeat on Disney Plus. Not the worst thing ever in any way. Definitely not the best thing ever either. But yeah, that's my review for Captain America: Brave New World. If you like it, please comment, subscribe, share this video. Tell me if you liked it or not. I don't know. Let's engage. Let's have like a little chat going. But until then, it's whatever. I'll see you next time.